people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News. Okay, we'll start with this. There was an article published a couple of days ago that caught my attention. Vasyl Lomachenko to step aside so that Gervonta Davis can fight Shakur Stevenson instead. This is from Gervonta Davis' side of things. This is what his assistant coach, Kenny Ellis, said. Shakur Stevenson versus Gervonta Davis could be next, at least according to Kenny Ellis, the co-trainer of Tank. It was reported that Vasyl Lomachenko, the IBF lightweight champion, was in talks with Davis, the WBA belt holder, regarding a unification match, but according to Ellis, the Ukrainian veteran is plotting a more direct route to lightweight supremacy. Lomachenko said he will step aside and let Gervonta Davis fight Shakur this fall, and he'll fight the winner early next year, Ellis said on Instagram. Given Lomachenko's age, one might assume he'd be better off fighting the likes of Davis sooner rather than later. However, with Stevenson holding the WBC title, Lomachenko could fight for 3 belts rather than 2 if he waits a little longer. Furthermore, should Davis defeat Stevenson, he'll be an even more marketable foe for Lomachenko than he is at present. And should Stevenson win, Lomachenko gets the chance to repay the American for last night wearing a t-shirt with his face on it and the words, "Bob is saving his son from this ass-whooping." Stevenson, who coasted to victory over Artem Haratunian, is now a free agent after revealing he turned down a $15 million offer from Bob Arum's Top Rank for a 5-fight extension to his now expired contract with the promotional powerhouse. Last week, Stevenson told Boxing Scene that a fight with Davis would be the biggest fight in the world. If we are really thinking about it, every hood in America is going to watch that fight.
Every hood, the hood. How many people in the hood are going to pay for it?
That's the biggest and the best fight to make in boxing. That's the game plan for me and the end goal. That's the fight that I am going to kick the door down with. Honestly, that's the direction I want to go in.
And you think you're doing that by leaving Top Rank? Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis is negotiating with a top-ranked fighter.
Wait a minute, I thought that Kenny Ellis said Vasyl Lomachenko would step aside to allow Gervonta and Shakur to fight instead. Isn't that what he said?
Yes, but he has since gone back on it. That's why I didn't jump on this article sooner.
This story. Via his Instagram account, he said, "Where is the sense of humor? I was just joking. Tank versus Loma is still on."
Wait, so he was lying?
Says it was a joke. If it was a joke, what's the funny part? What's the punchline?
I literally don't know.
Stylistically, the Vasyl Lomachenko fight is a better fight for Gervonta Davis than the Shakur Stevenson fight. That just based on styles, which fight does Gervonta stand a better chance of winning? He stands a better chance against a prolific puncher, a combination puncher, than he does a pot shotter and a mover.
And that's without the intangibles.
What are intangibles?
In this context, intangibles are outlying factors that may have a role to play in the fight, irrespective of the styles of the fighters. That there are intangibles like Vasyl Lomachenko's age, that he is in his mid-30s, he's lost 1 or 2 more fights over the years, and he may be slowing down.
Gervonta Davis is a boxer, puncher, and a counter puncher. He's at his very best when he can hang back, set a trap, and walk a guy into a shot, a counter shot. So when a guy's throwing 3, 4, and 5 punches at a time,
like Loma does,
there is a greater probability that the counter puncher can catch him in between the punches, compared to fighting an outside mover, a pot shotter like Shakur Stevenson. That is a much tougher assignment for a guy like Gervonta, who's shorter, stumpier, stockier. He's gonna have to chase him.
like he had to chase Frank Martin.
Except for all the flack I've been giving Shakur Stevenson the last couple of videos, a guy like Frank Martin is not on Shakur Stevenson's level in terms of boxing, in terms of fitness, just as a physical specimen. Shakur is a much better fighter than Frank Martin.
And a much tougher assignment for Gervonta than Frank Martin. Gervonta was only able to get to Frank because Frank finally gassed out.
Where Shakur can stay on his bike the whole fight, the whole night, and make it very difficult for the shorter, stumpier fighter to get within striking distance of him, Shakur will walk him into straight punches, pot shots.
One at a time.
Swing and a miss. Deontay is going to become frustrated, grow desperate, try for punches, and hit nothing but air because Shakur won't be there.
It's a stylistic nightmare for a guy like Deontay. That's likely why they're not after Shakur. They're after Lomachenko.
Yeah, now that he's older and in his mid-30s and courting retirement.
That's who they want.
Because they know with Loma, now that he's a little slower and he's lost a step, but he's still a combination puncher, he's still a volume guy, there's a greater probability that they can catch him in between the punches.
And don't forget that Loma's a mid-range to inside fighter. He's not an outside guy.
He's not as tall or as long as a Shakur Stevenson to use that height and use that length to pot shot from the outside. At his very best, Loma's a mid-range to inside guy, and he's a combination puncher.
The Gervonta Davis people know that style, at least at this point, it suits them better than dealing with Shakur.
Which is what makes Shakur's accusations against Top Rank that they stalled his career a lot of bullshit.
Deontay doesn't want to fight you. There's nothing they can do about that.
And what you could have done, what you could have did in your last two fights is put forward fan-friendly performances that leave an impression and leave the boxing community at large demanding that fight,
yes,
clamoring for that fight,
yes,
asking Gervonta Davis to fight you. But you didn't do that because in your mind, oh, a win is a win.
I could shave all the hair on my pussy, fry an egg, and not bat an eyelash, if never saw Stevenson box again.
That's how people are feeling right now. That's what they're saying.
I'm not against Shakur getting that opportunity myself. I am not against Shakur Stevenson getting the Gervonta Davis fight. But what you'll find is that there are a lot of people out there now saying they don't want Stevenson to get the fight because they know it's going to be boring.
I've seen that sentiment expressed.
I don't want to see Shakur fight. I'm just going to be honest. No disrespect to Newark, but I don't want to see Shakur fight nobody. I mean, it's like for him to be hanging out with Terrence Crawford and Andre Ward, there is absolutely no way that he's fighting the way he's fighting.
And it is much to the detriment of Shakur Stevenson, who is now a free agent without the top-rank ESPN machine behind him to promote his fights and look out for him where he thinks they didn't.
Okay.
We'll see what he parlays his newfound free agency into. More money? A pact with Matchroom, maybe? Will he go to the PBC? Do the PBC want him?
If he is going to fight again this year, who's it going to be against? Where?
Or does he not fight at all? Does he sit out what remains of this year, being stubborn and headstrong?
Top Rank doesn't know you anything, especially how you've been carrying on.
They really don't have to give you access to Dennis Berenchik. After all, you say they stalled your career, so why should they stall it further?
You're a free agent. Go be free.
You know, Ryan had a big 4th of July week himself. I don't know if you got a chance to see how his Twitter feed was going.
Oh, no. You're not going to get me involved in that. That's not my thing. I'm here to talk about Camille. I'm here to stay positive, talk about Camille, what my fighters do, and about me helping my fighters, and me being positive, talking about family on Mayweather Promotions. And that's what I'm here to talk about. Something negative, I don't want to have nothing to do with it.
This is who so many guys want to die on a hill over. Whenever a disparaging comment is made about Floyd Mayweather on social media, it won't take long for the Flomos to show up and start hurling ad hominem attacks. I suppose it's possible that they separate the man, the boxer, from the man. That outside of the ring, there's not much to admire about Floyd, but inside of the ring, he was a hell of a fighter.
And that's what they like about him.
But in failing to address Ryan Garcia's racial slurs, his hateful comments, I mean, is it really so hard?
That's what she said.
To condemn what he said, to condemn Ryan Garcia for the comments that he made, is it that difficult? Or is it that you just don't care that much?
You don't care.
You don't have to. But because you don't, should people look at you in a different light? I remember when all that stuff with Gucci happened, Floyd Mayweather...
All that racist stuff.
You know what Floyd Mayweather did? Floyd Mayweather went to the Gucci store, gave Gucci more of his money, continued to patronize them in spite of what was going on.
He didn't care.
He didn't care then? like he doesn't care now.
And this is who you guys die on a hill defending every day, online, on social media, on Twitter, on YouTube, in the Facebook boxing groups.
This is who you put on a pedestal. This is who you idolize and thereby deify.
This guy.
Go up to bat for him, defend him. If only he felt that way about you. If only he defended you as vigorously as you defend him in what is a simple and clear-cut matter.
I really don't think it's that hard to condemn what Ryan Garcia said. I mean, even the World Boxing Council publicly condemned what he said and disassociated themselves from him.
Where Floyd Mayweather would rather not speak, though his silence is deafening.
Is this your king?
Who you aspire to be like.
It's definitely a social commentary there about counterfeit heroes, counterfeit idols, and loose morals, loose ethics, selfishness.
Something to be said, but perhaps it's expecting too much. That an athlete, what is little more than just a boxer, a very successful boxer, but just a boxer still, should have the strength of character outside of the ring that they exhibited inside of the ring, in competition.
It's asking too much.
It would seem that it's asking too much, that just because he was a good fighter doesn't mean he's a good person.
He isn't. He never was.
And it's all right if he's not a good person, because a lot of you guys out there, you're not good people either.
No.
There is escalation to be addressed. That if you so allow a Ryan Garcia to get away with what he got away with, what he said, that's going to embolden other people to do the same thing.
You want to defend him? You can defend him.
But when you do, you send a public message out there, whether you're aware of it or not, that you can say hateful things like this. You can say that, and you're not going to be judged for it. No, if anything, you're going to be defended for it. People are going to try and explain it away when it's self-explanatory.
You either stand against what he said or not.
Because to some people, it's just easier not to take a stance. More convenient. I can't be bothered with this stuff.
Well, all right.
It was crazy, man. I was right there watching, like, what the heck? It was pretty crazy. I just feel that it should have been me.
Do you think the fight with you and Wilder happens, or do you think he retires after this?
No, I think he's gonna retire, especially if he's going through all the drama with the restraining order and all that shit. And I know how it is, man, because I've been through it, and that's why I took a long time too. But things have completely changed. I'm back. I'm ready to become champion again, man. This time without no drama, without anything out there, I'm ready.
By now we all know this fight is dead. But there was a time when Wilder versus Ruiz was a conversation, and it was up to the PBC to make it happen. The story was that they could not satisfy the fighter's financial demands. Wilder ends up going to Saudi, fighting Joseph Parker, loses to Joseph, then subsequently loses to Big Bang Zhang.
Now it seems like he's going out with a whimper.
What was the Wilder fan base a couple of years ago? Well, they were a lot more vocal and a lot more adamant about who Wilder was in this division than they are here today, because now they know more about him. He's been tested.
And he failed.
He's got that whole thing with his girlfriend going on, domestic abuse, restraining order. God only knows how that's going to end. And his career looks to be all but over. For Andy Ruiz, however, the show must go on, and the show does go on early next month on the West Coast, opposite the ring, Jarrell Miller. Do you think if they would have made that fight between Wilder and Andy, that Wilder would have won?
It's hard to say.
If they would have got it over the line, that would have meant that Wilder would have returned to action from the Robert Helenius fight sooner rather than later, that he wouldn't have spent so much time away from the ring. And perhaps, because of that, he might have stood a better chance against Andy, though at the same time, many would say that Wilder's fighting spirit was already gone by that time. His fighting spirit, his desire to keep fighting, he was just going through the motions.
Ultimately, we'll never know who would have won the fight between Wilder and Andy, but there was a legitimate shot at redemption there, that if Wilder would have fought him, and he would have beat him, if he would have knocked him out,
would have been a statement.
Because Andy Ruiz has never been knocked out. And he's been in there with Joseph Parker, with Anthony Joshua, with Luis Ortiz.
They couldn't knock him out. They couldn't stop him. If Wilder did, maybe that would have put the chip back on his shoulder, the battery in his back.
Maybe that would have gave him more confidence.
You know, because going in there and knocking out Robert Helenius, that really isn't much of a statement. Johan Duhaupas knocked out Robert Helenius. Robert was Wilder's old sparring partner, so you can't draw but so much confidence from that. Knocking out Andy would have been a stronger statement, but I guess we'll never know if he could have. Or would have.
And you can't give him credit for a fight that didn't happen, a fight he didn't win.
And so the sun sets on the career of Deontay Wilder, where Andy Ruiz, his career goes on. He's ramping a comeback. Can he beat Jarrell Big Gravy Miller? I think there are a lot of opportunities out there for Andy. He's one of the few American-based heavyweights who's worth something, or he could be. Potential fights against the likes of Richard Torres, maybe Jared Anderson, if Jared beats Martin Bacoli.
And Andy beats Big Baby Miller.
Maybe, that's the domestic scene. On the world scene, there are any number of heavyweights that are coming through from all over the world, but the UK in particular.
They've got a lot of heavyweights coming through. And for them, Andy Ruiz is a former champion. He's still a familiar face. He's still a familiar name.
Fighting him and beating him, it still means something. It's still worth something, which in turn could be worth something to Andy Ruiz. If he wins in August,
There's money out there for him.
he hasn't fought in close to 2 years, just 1 month shy of 2 years. He hasn't fought since the Luis Ortiz fight in September of 2022. He's not set to return to action until August of 2024. That is just 1 month shy of a 2-year hiatus. He's been out a while, and even though Jarrell Miller has his limitations and he's coming off a loss, a knockout loss, you also have to factor in Andy's inactivity. That's why I like the fight so much. I feel like Andy is a more talented boxer and better on the inside with more impactful punches than Jarrell Miller, but Andy's been out a long time.
That means the outcome isn't quite clear.
Best kind of fights, best kind of situation for the customer, that if you have to pay per view, there should at least be a question in your mind. Who's going to win this fight? Because that's what you pay to see. That's what you want to watch.
So you can find out.
Andy's got power. There's no question that he has power. He's got quick counters. Well, under normal circumstances, he does. I don't know what version of this fighter we're going to get in August. At the same time, Jarrell Miller, while he is coming off a loss, he has also seen action in the last 12 months. Win or lose, he has gotten some rounds in the bank that, in the last 2 years, he's been more active than Andy, so he's got that working for him. He is a little taller, noticeably bigger, just bigger in terms of weight. He's a much bigger man than Andy Ruiz.
And these are both mid-range to inside fighters. Both mid-range to inside combination punchers. They're not going to waltz around. They're not going to use the ring, move lateral, and stay on the outside. They're going to come forward,
march forward to the center of the ring, and they're going to let him go. Aesthetically, I think this is going to be a fun fight to watch. Even though there ain't no title on the line, for a fight like this, there doesn't need to be one.
I would give the edge in power to Andy Ruiz. Punch for punch, I think he punches harder than Jarrell Miller. Jarrell, he throws a lot of arm punches because he's got limited range of motion since he's so big. He just kind of slaps with his punches, but he does throw a lot of them.
What makes them arm punches is that he has limited range of motion. He can't really drive his punches the way a more athletic fighter would.
There's no snap on him.
So maybe Andy's got the edge? I just don't know.
You gotta see to find out.